The original title of this book is Douluo. The Black Angel Qiaoluosha of the Peerless Tang Sect, Shrek Academy. Don't we deserve to live? The Great Patriarch of the Holy Spirit Church, who is merciful and pure, said, "Isn't that nonsense? Do you or I die?" See Soul Master. You're just for your own desires. Not justice. Qianda Sect Leader. Rotten oranges are rotten oranges. I'm too lazy to reason with you, you don't deserve to listen. One day is a Sea Soul Master, and a lifetime is a Sea Soul Master. Die for me. Let's watch as the incarnation of the Holy Spirit Sect Leader marries Renxue, deceiving Wang Dong to bring Frostmourne to punish Tang Buddha in the Divine Realm. It is not a holy mother, with the fragrance of orange, and the plot and story flow are relatively light-hearted. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. Peerless Tangmen, Angel and Rakshasa reappear without a pop-up window, Douluo. Peerless Tangmen, Angel and Rakshasa reappear. Download the complete text. Douluo. Peerless Tangmen, Angel and Rakshasa reappear. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Wedge. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Wedge. As the saying goes, if one person gains the way, a chicken and a dog will ascend to heaven. Since Tang San became the sea god and Shura god, he can bring his family to enter the divine realm with him. Tang Hao and Ayin, the couple, were also deities and were granted the title of second-level deity. But Ayin said she enjoyed the life in Douluo continent, and Tang Hao stayed behind to accompany her. The couple did not enter the divine realm with Tang San, but instead went into seclusion in the lower realm. Of course, on the Douluo continent, their strength is also suppressed and they are unable to unleash their divine abilities. In addition, the Titan Ape and Tianqing Bull Python, which were once sacrificed to Tang San, have also been resurrected. And he was endowed with the ability of second-level divine slander by Tang San. Although Tang San's wife Xiaowu later entered the divine realm and became a god, it was also a long time later. The four divine creatures, with their strength lowered, lurk on the Douluo continent, causing a slight unease in the pure will of Douluo continent. In order to prevent any meaningful situation from happening, besides creating a son of destiny to protect themselves, it seems to have come up with another way. Many years ago, there was a powerful god who brought in a soul from another world, so why can't I learn from him? In a hazy colorless world, the seven-colored will of the Douluo plane tried to suppress the soft energy of the seven-colored below, imitating Shura's actions one by one. In the end, it casually threw the colorful energy towards the blue planet. This ball is a gamble, I hope it can bring a good helper, said the plain willpower. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Thousand Renxue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Thousand Renxue. On the bank of a river with dense energy but blooming flowers on the other side, countless illusory white figures are forming long rows of dragons on the sheep intestine path. These people took a bowl of strange bubbling green soup from the hands of an old woman with a split hair and drank it all in one go. Subsequently, they gradually lowered their heads, dragging their legs aimlessly. No, that thing was not a leg, it should be a semi-transparent tail, slowly walking into the door of rebirth behind the old woman. At this moment, a young man wearing a hood with no visible features drifted slowly towards the old woman. The young man looked at the bowl in his hand, which seemed to transform into an unknown liquid chosen by the god of cleansing, and instinctively swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Young man. This soup is incredibly delicious, drink it. You drink it quickly. The middle-aged woman wearing a tight black shirt and white suspenders looked at the soul in front of her and impatiently urged. Is this thing drinkable? The young man could not help but murmur about it. Are you joking? I'm Meng Pe, who has been practicing for over 2,000 years. I like. Before the old woman finished speaking, the young man could not help but complain. Boy, little sunspot, show. Cough, cough, cough. Carefully crafted with the hope that each deceased will be happy and loving, said the old woman in the middle, gesturing with both hands to draw a gesture of love. The design and movements, the young man couldn't help but think of a music video, and the immersive sound effects automatically echoed in the young man's mind, so whether you drink or not. After finishing speaking, the old woman impatiently looked at the long dragon behind the young man and asked with a pout. Even if I look at it again, it will explode. Drinking it. I'm afraid it will melt instantly. Oh, are you so unwilling to drink Mengpo's soup? The old woman angrily tapped her pot with a spoon, tapping out a pile of seasoning jars from unknown corners, and said coldly, the taste is unpleasant, so let me add some sugar to you. Mengpo picked up a small spoon from the ground and asked, how many spoons do you want? If you add sugar, 2 or 4 spoons of sugar, the young man replied without hesitation. Why can't we add 3 spoons? Mengpo looked at the young man suspiciously and asked, does adding 3 spoons of sugar make it 4? Yes, the young man said concisely. I see, adding 3 spoonfuls of sugar would make 4. Mengpo pondered and finally added 2 spoonfuls of sugar to the bowl. For a long time, the young man still looked at the bowl in his hand without any movement. Mengpo finally became anxious. She frowned in anger, and the strap on her pants also slipped halfway. She asked, sugar has already been added to you. Why don't you drink it? There are so many people waiting in line behind. This thing tastes so bad even with added sugar. Is there any other way to reincarnate? The young man was very disgusted and handed the bowl to someone behind him. He stood next to Mengpo and started chatting with her. There are other ways of reincarnation. But you have to draw. Mengpo glanced at the young man who didn't speak of martial arts with a dark face, repeating the movements of scooping soup, handing bowls, and collecting bowls in her hand. Lucky draw. What kind of draw method is it? Don't tell me what kind of guaranteed size and the 100th draw must come out. That thing is a trap. The young man was complaining incessantly, but didn't expect Mengpo's lips to curl. She handed the spoon in her hand to the young man and pouted at the crowd coming and going behind, gesturing, you work for me. For every 10 people who finish Mengpo's soup, there will be a chance for a lottery. 10 people give 1 chance. You didn't tell me the exact number of times you can guarantee it, why don't you just be Mengpo? You should be Zhou Pipi. The young man shouted in frustration, but didn't want Mengpo to bring in a lounge chair. He sneered leisurely, I love to do it, you don't do it, there are plenty of ghosts to do it. Got it. Look at you like this. Are you ready to eat me? The young man rubbed his forehead, looked at the spoon in his hand and the soul that didn't know where to line up, gritted his teeth and said fiercely, just do it. Not long after, Mengpo couldn't help but admire the young man who was about to throw sparks out of the spoon, saying, Tisk, talent. It's a pity not to work for me here. Midway through, Mengpo reminded the young people several times that they could try their luck with her, but the young people remained unmoved and decided to save up the necessary resources before going to the lottery. Mengpo was also happy and at ease about this, so she no longer spoke out to remind her, but enjoyed her rare rest. 3 days later the young man, whose arms trembled slightly due to repeated movements, followed the horse through the vast flower sea on the other side and arrived at a low and dilapidated wooden door. What is this? This is the gate of random reincarnation, specially prepared for people like you who have been headache-stricken by Mengpo. Only here can you leave the underworld without drinking Mengpo soup, but the price is that you will never return to our original world, that is, permanent exile. Even if you die again, you will never return, and even your soul will be annihilated. Even so, do you want to go through this gate? Ma Mian paused and said, there's still time to regret now. I understand the truth, anyway I would never drink that bowl of unknown liquid. Okay then. Good words are hard to persuade damn ghosts. Ma Mian gently pushed open the somewhat eerie and dilapidated door for the young man. Oh by the way, I forgot to remind you that the world you're going to is random, and you can't be killed by a tsunami or something just as you go down. Do you die from birth? As soon as he thought of landing in a box, the young man immediately sweated profusely, with bean-sized sweat dripping uncontrollably down his chin and eventually falling onto the ground. After swallowing his saliva fiercely, the young man tentatively asked, "Is there still time for me to regret it now?" "Hey, I just like your rebellious appearance just now, but unfortunately, when the door opens, I can't go back." Ma Mian chuckled and comforted as much as possible. "Look. UFO, let's go." Without waiting for the other person to react, Ma Mian kicked the young man into the door, and then the pitch-black door automatically closed. Struggling to stand up with a huge stone, he saw the pattern on the coffin in confusion. The stone slab was carved with a beautiful female angel. The woman has an extremely beautiful appearance, but she is only 7% similar to the appearance of Renxue in the anime of her past life. Compared to the aloof and stunning image in the anime, her expression on the stone statue seems much calmer. The stone statue is wrapped in a beautiful gray-black holy sword sculpture with both arms. Ka, ka, ka. After a few simple dry noises, the gray-black shell of the holy sword sculpture on the coffin gradually cracked open from bottom to top, and a nearly completely transparent golden illusion slowly emerged from the holy sword. My goodness, it's been almost 10,000 years, and I can still retain a trace of my soul. Is this a god? The soul body opened its mouth in shock and unconsciously took a few steps back. Yes, Renxue used to be an angel god. Although her position was shattered in the end, she still had the foundation of a god there. It was also possible to retain her remaining soul with the help of the residual power of the artifact. The Plain Will whispered. "Who are you?" the young man asked. "I am the Plain Will." A inexplicable colored light suddenly made a sound. "Will of the Plain." The young man pouted and immediately returned to the main topic. "What should I do if she directly kills me?" "Don't worry, her soul has been dissipating now. Even without you, her soul won't last for a few years. So, Jia. The Plain Will observed the state of Renxue's soul and suddenly laughed. I don't know what the Plain Will did, but Renxue's almost transparent soul has finally improved a bit. She looked at the unfamiliar soul and said coldly, "Who are you? When is it now?" Now is the Douluo continent, about 10,000 years after the Battle of Qiaoluosha, the young man explained with a complex expression, I am the one whose Plain Will calls. She didn't intend to deceive Renxue through nonsense, as Renxue was still a slippery old man who went out to steal the country at a young age. Although under the terrifying aura of Tang Buddha's descent of wisdom, it looks like a silly white sweet with his head lowered. But he doesn't have a halo of wisdom. It's better to be honest, after all. Sincerity is the ultimate skill. Will of the Plain. Renxue carefully examined the soul and vaguely saw the colorful light cluster hidden behind the spiritual body. Not bad, angel god. He didn't lie to you, it was indeed me. The Plain Will emitted a light color and began to converse with the soul of Renxue at a unique frequency. Ah no, what are you talking about? The traveler looked at Renxue, whose lips were moving rapidly, and the Plain Will, which shook violently like jelly, and felt an indescribable unease in his heart. In fact, the Plain Will is negotiating with Renxue's efforts. Oh. It's you who gave Tang San the chi that originally belonged to my martial soul hall. How could you have the face to come to me now? Renxue's soul remained silent for a while and asked coldly. No, angel god, don't have such great hostility. The loss of your energy has nothing to do with me, but we can help each other. I need everything to return to the rules, and what you need is revenge. I don't have that kind of ability now. Not to mention being reborn after losing something, I can't even maintain my spiritual body. How can I seek revenge? Renxue sneered and shook her head, saying, "You should be able to see that I'm hopeless. No matter how much spiritual nourishment I have, it's just a matter of struggling to survive. Why don't you let me pass away and settle for it?" "So. Have you forgotten your hatred?" asked the faced Will. "Have you forgotten your grandfather, your mother, your family and friends?" "Of course I haven't forgotten. I will never forget the unwillingness of my mother when she died in front of me, nor will I forget the reluctance in my grandfather's eyes when he sacrificed for me." Renxue's words were filled with despair and anger, with roars echoing in this tomb chamber. Every word Renxue said, the intense emotional fluctuations made her soul tremble violently. "Do you want to seek revenge?" The plane will ask again. "I can only help you once." "Of course we need revenge. Do you have a way?" Renxue asked repeatedly. "Of course there is," said the plane will meaningfully, "but now I need you to persuade your mother's obsession, the two gods, so that we can have a chance of winning." Speaking of Bibi Dong, Renxue fell silent for a moment and said, "As a plain will, are you going to use the divine position left by my mother? Cultivate a new god?" "Yes, you don't have a good chance of winning with a broken divine position. To be safe, at least you need two gods." The plain will responded and told Renxue one by one about the changes over the past 10,000 years. The oppression of the common people by several empires has caused unbearable suffering for them, and many people are unable to awaken their martial souls. Even more ironically, in the later stages, many even went so far as to awaken their martial souls as evil soul masters. The Sun and Moon Empire, with its powerful soul guidance technology, suffered successive defeats in the three kingdoms of the original Douluo continent thousands of years ago. There is no capital of slaughter. Countless evil soul masters ravaged the mainland, taking away the lives of countless civilians. Shrek, with the slogan of liberating the free will of common soul masters, has become a holy land for soul masters. Ordinary soul masters cannot even enroll without a letter of introduction. Shrek occupied the original Soul City and became another new Soul Hall. At some point in the future, Tang Sect took the opportunity to eliminate his competitors in the Divine Realm and turn Douluo continent into Tang Family Continent. Tang Ritian, that coward, took the opportunity to become the master of the plane, and that blue-silver emperor stole the Tree of Life. Seeing this, Renxue also understood why this face-willed person came to find her. She wanted to understand the power behind it. Renxue chuckled self-deprecatingly and said, "I thought after my martial soul hall disappeared, this Douluo continent would become so beautiful and peaceful. So it looks like this, ha ha ha. It's really retribution." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Divine Clothes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Divine Clothes. After laughing for a while, Renxue's eyes lit up with a peaceful glow. She raised her hand and caressed her angelic sword, murmuring, "The foolish ones hate me, and I don't love them either, but foolishness. Sin never leads to death. They should be redeemed. I will use the scorching fire of the sun to wash away the sins of the mortal world. But evil is everywhere, and we need to burn everything with the blazing fire of the world." Renxue's eyes coldly felt the energy filled by the will of the plane in her body, and her soul became solidified. She asked, "Shouldn't I just have to start fighting from a soul body?" "Don't worry, it's easy to solve your physical problems. Just extract your own bloodline from your divine costume." Quickly, guided by the will of the plane, the coffin of Renxue slowly emitted a dazzling golden light, which was strong but not dazzling. They seemed like countless golden beams as thin as toothpicks, escaping from the cracks in the coffin. Opening the stone lid of the coffin, 6 nearly shattered golden soul bones merged and converged in the light, gradually revealing a silhouette of a person around 6 years old. "Why is it like I'm 6 years old?" Renxue asked with a puzzled expression on her pretty eyebrows. After a moment of confusion, the plains will explained, because you are a awakened martial soul at the age of 6. Moving forward, you don't have a martial soul to sustain yourself. Okay. You make sense. Renxue awkwardly pouted and stepped into her coffin, trying to stuff her soul into her body. On this side, Renxue worked hard to integrate her soul into her new body, while on the other side, the coffin was filled with a faint purple light, and a murmur of emptiness came from within. The will of the plane understood and lifted the lid of the coffin on the other side. A shattered purple spiritual body, bearing the sacred light, struggled to move slowly outward from the coffin. Is this aura? Schwer. The purple shattered spirit looked up at the coffin shrouded in golden light. Even though the strong aura of light continued to harm her spirit, she still stared at the golden light in a daze. Yes, Rakshasa God, that is the newly born angel god, your daughter has returned. The plane will kindly reminded. Not long after, the golden figure inside the coffin gradually became more solid, and the face became clearer. Gradually, a little girl with short golden hair and a pink carved jade face appeared in front of Bibidong's spiritual body, resembling an angel. Mom, is that you? I'm Schwer. Seeing her mother, Renxue burst into tears and rushed forward. When Renxue hugged Bibidong's spiritual body with both hands, Bibidong's spiritual body remained motionless, and a hint of confusion flashed in her empty eyes. For a moment, she didn't know whether she should cry while holding Renxue or laugh while holding Renxue. Rakshasa, you don't have much time either, whispered the plain will. I know, Bibidong murmured, ignoring the urge of the plain's will. She just hugged her lost daughter tightly, feeling guilty and reluctant. She placed her hand on Renxue's shoulder, recounting her years of longing and apologies. Until her hands fell weakly from Renxue's shoulder, her spiritual body began to slowly dissipate. Mom, you. Plain willpower, what should I do? Renxue turned her head to look at plain willpower and asked, tell me. You know, she's hopeless. She was already severely injured and killed by the Shura god, but you can ask the Rakshasa god to find a new master. Upon hearing this, Renxue's face stiffened and she murmured, is that so? After finishing speaking, the face will took out the set of Rakshasa attire from Bibidong's coffin and placed it neatly in front of Renxue. He softly said, Angel God, mourn. Now, what you need to do is to use your bloodline from your mother to lift the restriction of Rakshasa's position. I know now. Renxue stood up with difficulty, but then fell to the ground. She picked up the purple spiritual body on the ground and sat cross-legged, no longer resisting, letting the completely contradictory purple spiritual energy invade her spiritual body. Spiritual energy entered the body, and Renxue's body shook violently, lifted from the ground by a purple light. They were already mothers and daughters, and their fusion was naturally irresistible. At the same time, the Rakshasa divine costume on the ground also emitted a brilliant dark light. It started to attach from Renxue's head downwards, and as the divine equipment attached to Renxue's forehead, the golden angel headband trembled violently. Renxue felt as if something had pierced through her eyebrows. That sharp existence pierced through her skin and muscles, and finally fiercely embedded itself in her sea of consciousness. The pain of being pierced by a steel needle in her brain made Renxue's teeth tighten instantly, and even a hint of blush seeped from the corners of her mouth. At this moment, at the center of Renxue's eyebrows, a purple golden light suddenly lit up, and the soft purple golden light instantly covered her head, restoring Renxue's spiritual sea to calmness. Renxue knew that it was her mother's hand, taking this opportunity to gently soothe her soul that had suffered. But surprisingly, when the pain on Renxue's body was completely eliminated, the Rakshasa divine costume also directly detached from Renxue's body, falling to the ground with a thud. The plain will, what's going on? Renxue panicked and picked up the scattered Rakshasa divine attire on the ground, asking in confusion. Angel, the two deities of Rakshasa are mutually exclusive, and there is no possibility of success in your absorption like this. The plane will slowly explained, but Renxue didn't buy it. She glared at the plane will and said coldly, so. I need to forge a body for him. After speaking, without waiting for Renxue's reaction, the planes will cut open Renxue's arm with the simulated colorful spikes on its own. Yan Hong's blood slowly flowed from the wound on Renxue's wrist to the colorful sharp edge. Under the gaze of Renxue, my blood was carried by the will of the plane and dripped onto the Rakshasa divine costume. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Twin Gods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Twin Gods. What are you doing? Renxue stared at the few drops of her own blood on the Rakshasa god's attire, lost in thought, until she was surprised to see. Under the influence of plain will, her blood on the Rakshasa god's attire began to wriggle rapidly. They seem to have their own lives, yet they rely on a template with the Rakshasa deity as their skeleton, simulating their own blood vessels, meridians, and skin. Before the skin was simulated, Renxue could even see the pulsating heart inside her chest through the cracks. This fierce and tiger-like operation surprised Renxue a bit. She pointed to the unowned body on the ground that was already breathing and asked, "What's next? Where are you going to put this body?" "Of course not," exclaimed the plane with displeasure. "Next, naturally, be prepared to let that child enter the body." "Okay." Renxue turned her head to look at the plain will and sneered, "I'm looking forward to it." The long silence and the planes will seem dead without saying a word made both of them a little worried. "You seek your own blessings." After speaking, the will of the plane disappeared directly in front of them, and a strange smile and gloomy whispers came from afar. "Boss, according to ancient books and images, this is the last place where the fox Douluo Qiaoluosha lived in seclusion on the Douluo continent 10,000 years ago." The man speaking had a soft and gentle voice, with a hint of yin and yang. "Oh. It's just a title Douluo from 10,000 years ago. What good thing can there be? Bones, even 10,000 years have rotted clean." Another voice came, different from his previous delicate voice. This man's voice was much louder, sounding like a middle-aged man. Jia, you don't understand this, boss, do you?" The spy's male voice began to show off and moan for a while before explaining, "This fox Douluo is not an ordinary title Douluo. When the martial soul hall was defeated, she and the angel god took away their teacher, the bones of the Rakshasa god, and they never appeared again." "Are you saying?" The thick male voice seemed to understand something, with a hint of surprise in his tone. "That's right, there may be soul bones left by Lord Rakshasa here. If we bring them back to the main altar, it will be the day when our brothers will soar to fame." Jia. Upon hearing this, a sharp killing intent flashed in Renxue's eyes. This was her mother, and the resting place of a stupid fox. Surprisingly, someone had a plan to come here. "I really don't know how to write the word death." "Calm down, you find a place to get your cat up and don't get your head up," said Ku, with a calm will. "It makes sense," Renxue thought for a moment, but considering her current strength, she reluctantly gave up. After closing the wide-open lid of her and Bibidong's coffins, she picked up the angel sword beside her and directly pried open Qiaoluosha's coffin. Under the gaze of the soul, Renxue reached out and took out a soul bone from Qiaoluosha's coffin, carrying her ownerless body on the ground and jumping into the shadowy canal beside her. Watching Renxue leave without forgetting to take his soul bone, his plain will feels a bit speechless, but it's understandable. After all, most of Qiaoluosha's soul bones come from the martial soul hall, so it's reasonable for Renxue to take them back. As soon as Renxue adjusted her breathing, she heard someone suddenly burst out laughing. She leaned out and looked out, only to see a burly man of all sizes take 2 steps towards Bibidong's tombstone, bowing falsely twice and laughing. "Ha, it seems that heaven still favors us. Unexpectedly, all the records in this broken book are true. My great senior of the Rakshasa god, your strength is the highest pursuit of our evil soul masters. Your soul bones, oh, and your beloved disciple Douluo's soul bones, we will accept them, jie jie jie. The leading evil soul master waved to the evil soul master behind him, his eyes filled with greed and joy. Dig open the tomb and take away the soul bones of the Rakshasa god and the fox Douluo. You should know that the soul bones of the Rakshasa god are precious and cannot be careless. As for the soul bones of Douluo, the evil soul master sneered, we can bring back Douluo's soul bones, which is also a great achievement. I believe the sect leader will not treat us unfairly. Finally, the evil soul master took 2 steps towards Renxue's coffin, looking at the angel relief on the coffin with some fear. Subconsciously, he took a few steps back and instructed. Angel God. Since there are no more angels in the world, why not just destroy those ghosts? After speaking, the evil soul master summoned his blood blade martial soul and pried open Renxue's coffin. And the several evil soul masters following behind him also gave a fierce smile, surrounded them, and opened the coffins of Bibidong and Helena. Organized evil soul masters are mostly evil soul masters of the Holy Spirit sect. If you want to take action, you must ensure that they cannot escape. Even if one of these evil soul masters runs away, it will bring endless troubles to you humans. The will of the plane had already felt the anger on Renxue's body soaring to a terrifying level, and he couldn't help but mutter. What do you plan to do? Humph, it's just 7 or 8 soul kings and 1 evil soul master with the highest cultivation level of the 7 rings. With my angel holy sword, I can't kill them. Renxue remained expressionless and gently wiped the blade of the angel holy sword with both hands. Then come on. With a chuckle from the plane's willpower, it started to liven up again. This one has combat experience against gods, and the angel divine costume that is broken but already in his body. In terms of the number of soul skills, I'm afraid Renxue has already surpassed many soul masters with 8 or 9 rings. Not to mention that she still has a real artifact in her hand. The holy angel soul that transforms evil, the angel sword that destroys evil, good guy, this buff is basically stacked all over. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Golden Snowball and Purple Snowball. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Golden and purple snowballs. After the lids of the 3 coffins were lifted, the murmurs of surprise from the evil soul masters kept coming one after another, and the entire tomb was as haunted as ghosts, crying and howling. Boss, the coffin is empty. Am I here too? Where are the soul bones? I have so many spicy soul bones. Why are they missing? The leading soul saint danced and skipped for a while, then unbelievably flipped the coffin over and over again. That's for sure, they didn't read it wrong, these coffins are all empty. No, something's wrong. There's a faint energy fluctuation here. Someone must have taken all the soul bones from us first. And they must not have gone far. The evil soul saint gritted his teeth and roared, seeming to have thought of something. He grabbed an evil soul master and shouted hysterically at it, they must not have gone far. You're from the spiritual realm, hurry up and find me. If you can't find me, you're the only one asking. As he spoke, the evil soul saint pushed away the evil soul master in his hand and shouted to all the evil soul masters around him, go find it for me and see if there's any secret way out. Yes, boss. After a response, the group of evil soul masters immediately dispersed in a semi-circular shape and struck the stone walls in the tomb chamber. Hey, don't look anymore, we're here. To the surprise of others, Renxue walked out directly to meet the gaze of the evil soul masters and climbed up from the canal in a dignified manner. Looking at the young Snow, a surprised expression flashed in the eyes of the evil soul saint. In the end, he sneered, Jia jia jia, there is a way to heaven that you won't leave, and there is no door to hell. You can't hide before we find you. Leave the soul bones behind, I'll give you a good time, otherwise. Jia, I don't mind letting my brother start the meat dish first. As he spoke, the evil soul saint extended his crimson tongue and licked his plump lips. The surrounding evil soul masters also cooperated and grinned. It's not necessary. Renxue shook her head disdainfully and used the angel holy sword in her hand to grab a sword flower, sneering, although I'm down and out, I'm not willing to compromise with you guys. Evil soul master. It's just some unseen joy. Okay, you're kind, but most people who are too kind don't live long. The face of the evil soul saint was gloomy, as if he could drip water. He raised his blood-colored long sword high in his hand, roared, and leaped forward fiercely. The blood knife in his hand was waved tightly by him, like a spinning blood-colored small top. Even in mid-air, it was still very talkative and clamoring, "It's your honor, Jia, you little girl, to die under my sixth soul skill." Before she could finish speaking, Renxue knelt down on one knee and plunged her angel sword into the ground. The holy light flashed through her, and her 6 wings behind her opened, revealing a golden realm at her feet. Angel Realm. Although Renxue's current cultivation is not strong, the angelic realm that specializes in restraining evil and the ultimate divine angelic soul power still cause these evil soul masters considerable damage. Damn it. It's that damn angel. How could such a thing still exist? The restrained evil soul masters let out painful screams, and their 7 orifices spewed blood smoke from themselves, which was a manifestation of their purification by the power of the angel soul. The speed of the evil soul saint spinning in mid-air also slowed down. Although his whole body was spraying red blood mist outwards, his long sword still landed on the angel holy sword in Renxue's hand. With a thud, Renxue's face turned pale, and he took more than 10 steps back with his sword, finally struggling to stabilize his figure. What about the power of angels? Your cultivation is still too weak, 2nd ring. Or 3rd ring. Jia. You can't defeat me. The evil soul master casually wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, pointed his long sword at Renxue, and whispered. Starting from today, the angelic martial soul will completely disappear from this world, and our holy religion will inevitably be invincible in the world. Taking a few steps back, Renxue turned her head and looked at the transparent soul body behind her, with a bold idea in her heart. Subconsciously, she glanced at the nearby canal. Yes, if at this point, as the plane will mention before, find a way to manipulate another body with the blessing of this Rakshasa divine equipment. Under the restraint of the power of angels and the power of Rakshasa, it seems not particularly troublesome for them to kill all these evil soul masters. Anyway, the big deal is death. Fight it. Renxue chuckled softly, and her expression became serious. She then said the remaining half of the sentence. Why not give it a try? After finishing speaking, without waiting for the evil soul saint to react, Renxue turned around and ran. A sliding shovel rolled into the previous canal, and she tightly hugged the unowned body on the ground, pressing her forehead against hers. At this moment, the angel realm released by Renxue automatically closed, without the constraints of divine power, and the other agonizing evil soul masters who were tormented by the angel realm also breathed a sigh of relief. Damn it, don't try to run. Little ones, chase after me. The evil soul saint turned around and chased after Renxue with a gloomy expression. When he arrived at the edge of the canal after a few ups and downs, he saw a scene that he would never forget. Tiny dots of light poured continuously from behind Renxue into another body, and faintly, they felt a ferocious and domineering aura far more domineering and rebellious than them. Under the pressure of the fierce aura, the evil soul masters feel the immense pressure from the martial soul. Whether it's the weapon martial soul or the beast martial soul, as long as they are the evil soul masters, they will tremble and emit weak screams in front of the power of the Rakshasa, who is in charge of evil thoughts. At the moment when the semi-transparent soul entered this ownerless body, the first thing it saw was a huge purple cloud. Before she could react, purple clouds enveloped her from all directions. I don't care who you are, but I can't protect Shuer anymore. I'm leaving everything to you. I hope you can protect her for me. The purple cloud conveys its will, as it rushes into the flexible soul of the body from all four limbs and remains. The bright memories, unwillingness, and sadness instantly fill the spirit of this body. With the help of the purple cloud, someone's soul also underwent some morphological changes. I don't know how long it has been, it could have been a second, a minute, or an hour when this body opened its eyes again, memories surged in like a tide. Suddenly, she, who had received a large amount of memories, had a splitting headache and held her head in silence, enduring the mental torment and pain. Very awkward, the book title has been changed. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Mind Stamps. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Mind Stamp. Strange to say, this kind of pain comes and goes quickly. When the mental pain barely reaches a level that humans can accept, the soul inside this body explodes in mentality. Out of her sense of responsibility, she felt her soul and body condition, and overall, it hurt everywhere. Damn it. It's all the sudden appearance of those faint souls that's causing us trouble. If it weren't for their appearance, I would have asked the angel god to say 2 good words for me. How could I have become like this? I'm really angry. The owner of the body became more and more angry as he thought, and suddenly opened his dark red eyes. The cross-sickle pattern between his forehead lit up, and the sickle relief on the distant coffin suddenly shattered. The purple-black Rasha magic sickle transformed into a black arc with a piercing roar and flew straight towards the owner. The sickle, tightly held in its hand once again, let out a joyful hum. As the sickle was picked up, the owner's eyes also darkened with a layer of dark red. In the next moment, a pair of ink wings spread freely behind her, and the purple-black field quickly spread under her feet. This aura. It's actually the legendary Rakshasa sickle. It's the arrival of a saint. The evil soul saint, who was oppressed by the power of the Rakshasa, threw himself to the ground in pain and grinned in pain. He still squeezed out an ugly smile and exclaimed excitedly, "Holy Lady, please come with us. Only our holy religion can bring the glory of the Rakshasa god back to the world." The charming fallen angel raised her head and sneered, "Why, do you want me to hold a sickle and be a mouse with you guys underground?" No, we just happened to come in today, and we have serious missions at other times." The expression on the face of the evil soul saint even showed a hint of sincerity, and he patiently explained, "You don't know, our Holy Spirit sect is the largest evil soul master organization in the world, with many Douluo powerhouses on it. As long as you go back with us, it won't be long before this Douluo continent belongs to you." Oh, controlling the whole continent. Sounds really tempting. The fallen angel pretended to ponder and gestured to Renxue nearby to be calm and not irritable. Right, please come with us. We'll take you directly to see the sect leader." The evil soul saint nodded and bowed eagerly, as if he had already thought about what reward he could get by bringing this person back. "Your words are very attractive, but I refuse because I like to say no to those who think they control the direction the most." As she spoke, the fallen angel fiercely intensified her suppression of these evil soul masters. Renxue understood and drew her sword before chopping. With a smooth set of angel sword techniques, the evil soul masters fell to the ground in response to the sound, exploding into flying ashes in the golden sacred fire. Only the last evil soul master with 4-ring cultivation was left holding his head and trembling. "Hey, how did you fall into a trap?" The fallen angel pointed to the last evil soul master lying on the ground and asked with a smile. "There's no leakage, this is what's left for you." Renxue walked over and gently pushed the fallen angel, gesturing, "You can't have any mercy on the evil soul master. Otherwise, you will die. I know you seem to kill without blinking an eye, but in reality, even chickens have not been killed, but. As you know, in this world, a great kind-hearted person who has never seen blood will not live long. You must learn to protect yourself. But, the fallen angel shook his hand, almost unable to grasp the Rakshasa demon scythe in his hand, and said in a trembling voice, so what, I really haven't even killed a chicken, so can we start by killing a chicken step by step? Unfortunately, only Renxue's serious gaze and silence responded to her. Helpless, the fallen angels held their sickles high in front of the evil soul masters, constantly comforting themselves. They were evil soul masters who had lost their conscience, killing them was to eliminate harm for the people. But her arms remained high, and the sickle never swung down. Don't be too outrageous, isn't it tiring to hold a large sickle? Renxue was enraged and covered her stomach, laughing so hard that she couldn't stand up. Are you joking? I am a very cruel heir to the throne of the Rakshasa deity. How could I be afraid to take action? Yes, the fallen angel has a hard mouth all over her body. She stood with the sickle for 7 or 8 minutes like this, and Renxue couldn't bear to watch anymore. She ignored the evil soul master's plea and directly grabbed the evil soul master on the ground, throwing it onto the edge of the sickle. The fragile body was like a torn leaf in front of the Rakshasa sickle. At the moment it touched the Rakshasa sickle, the evil soul master was torn in half. When the owner of the Rakshasa sickle reacted, blood and internal organs scattered all over her. She screamed and threw down the sickle in her hand, lying on the ground and retching in the open space beside her. But her body has never eaten anything, only a constantly surging stomach acid. At this moment, Renxue pulled a clean cloth from somewhere and handed it to the fallen angel, apologizing, I'm sorry, you look too much like her now. I don't want to see her hurt again. Well, she also told me she didn't want to make you too sad. The fallen angel nodded knowingly, took the cloth, and tried to wipe off the blood stains on his body, but his pale face couldn't recover for a while. Really? Did she really tell you that? Renxue pretended to ask casually, while a pair of good-looking eyes looked back and forth at the body. Yes, she was afraid that I might have some bad thoughts about you, so she reshaped my soul again. The fallen angel's lost and shrunken mouth turned to see Renxue's scorching gaze, which seemed to have crossed her skin to see the deepest soul. Suppressing embarrassment, she chuckled twice and instinctively twisted her chest back, angrily saying, Hey, what kind of eyes are you looking at? In a daze, as if a sigh could be heard, Renxue shook her head and stared at the unfortunate fallen angel for a long time. Then she sighed, we are still too weak. If we had completed the fusion of divine costumes before, these guys would have died in our hands long ago. We need time to fully integrate our divine costumes. I think this place is pretty good, and there aren't many people bothering. How about? Let's keep it until we completely complete the fusion divine equipment. Okay, let's first take a look at what strange things are on these evil soul masters. Renxue nodded and quickly walked towards the fallen storage soul guide on the ground. The fallen angel calmly poured out a pile of strange and disgusting visceral eyeballs from the storage soul guide on the ground, took out usable gold soul coins and dry food from it and placed them aside. The familiar appearance of this light car also surprised Renxue a bit. Just now, I killed an evil soul master and vomited profusely. How could I still maintain my expression when flipping through these even more disgusting things? This is too strange. By a stroke of fate, she looked at the face of the fallen angel, which was becoming more and more like BB Dong's, and then thought of her mischievous self. She awkwardly shouted to her, I twisted my arm, come help me rub it. Renxue thought that her stubborn request would be rejected, but she never expected the other party to really put down their work and walked over to gently rub and pinch her shoulder. Renxue hesitated for a moment, looked at the expressionless face beside her, raised her hand and patted her shoulder, wondering, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? The fallen angel also had a bewildered expression on her face. She looked at what she was doing now and then looked at Renxue's puzzled eyes. She said in shock, I don't know what's wrong. Anyway, I instinctively did what you said. Do you do whatever I ask you to do? Then why didn't you do it when I asked you to kill that evil soul master just now? Renxue asked inexplicably. Maybe because you didn't directly command me to kill it, the fallen angel lowered her head and said in a sarcastic tone. After much thought, it seemed like there was only one explanation. Renxue sighed and held on to the soft skirt of the fallen angel, whispering, let's try again. Okay, the fallen angel nodded subconsciously. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Sisters Farewell and Sisters Roar. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Sisters Farewell and Sisters Roar. After various attempts throughout the afternoon, the swollen and bruised fallen angel looked at Renxue, who was also disheveled, at a loss. That's it, my mom probably added some kind of me-led thinking imprint to you. Renxue raised her hand and comforted the people around her, saying. But don't worry, we've all seen it today. All I can ask you to do is small things, especially troublesome things that cannot be done. Well, I can see that the Pope just wants me to take care of you on her behalf. You feel so comfortable. The fallen angel rolled her eyes and helplessly wiped away her lips. Hey, don't worry. I won't give you any instructions. Renxue's hand, which was hooked around the neck of the fallen angel, gently pinched her bouncing cheek and smiled lightly. To put it another way, we have a tube of blood, which is a serious one, closer than the twin relationship. Also. The fallen angel's mouth twitched a few times and shook her head helplessly. Oh, anyway, we are already people with blood ties between each other. My body appeared earlier than you, and your blood comes from me. What should you call me? Renxue's arm strength increased a bit, making their cheeks tightly pressed together, coaxing them gently. The fallen angel remained silent for a moment, then silently squeezed out an awkward smile and joked, Mom. Call me Snow Sister. Renxue's face turned black and she growled softly, I haven't even touched a man. Are you calling me Mom? So. Snow Sister, the fallen angel asked again. Hey, that's pretty good, little sister is so good. Upon hearing this, Renxue nodded in satisfaction. Naivety. The fallen angel let out a low beep and was immediately dragged by Renxue to stand in front of her coffin. The fallen angel at the beginning still couldn't understand what Renxue wanted. Until Renxue took out a strange-shaped stone slab from her coffin and gently wiped away the dust on it with her hand, she leaned over and fixed her gaze. She saw a few words on it and didn't hesitate to disturb her. She watched as Renxue wiped the spiritual card with the name of Douluo. For how long Renxue wiped it, she just looked at it like that. After another quarter of an hour, Renxue stood up and placed Douluo's spirit card on his coffin. He pulled the fallen angel forward and bowed, trembling, saying, Grandpa, so many years have passed, and our Qian family finally has fresh blood again. I will bring her to show you today. Hey! The fallen angel stood still, looking at Renxue with tears streaming down her face, feeling helpless for a while. Finally, she bowed symbolically to the spirit card of Qianda, holding the attitude of valuing the deceased. Renxue tightly grasped the hand of the fallen angel and candidly said, I didn't leave a trace of my angel's lineage in my previous life. Today, I barely have it. If you don't mind, let's take my sister's surname. Ah no, I feel like something's not right. The fallen angel frowned slightly and stared at Renxue, seemingly conflicted about what this was all about. Others travel by the system, marrying by Fume and reaching the pinnacle of life. How could she be dragged into someone else's family tree? It doesn't make sense. This is unreasonable. What's wrong? Renxue proudly propped up her chest, pinching the back of the other person's fate and muttering, "Are we relatives by blood?" "Yes," the fallen angel nodded. "Do we look very similar?" Renxue asked again. "Yes." The fallen angel thought for a moment and nodded again. "Then you?" Renxue asked. "Enough, stop, I'm done. Just tell me what you want. I'll do it." The fallen angel sighed helplessly and rolled his eyes to walk to Renxue's side, eagerly watching Renxue take the genealogy and name himself there. "Let me be Kong Kong, under my Ren generation. The boy is the Yuan generation. The girl is the Ling generation." Renxue glanced at the fallen angel and asked, "What do you want to call it?" "No, but I feel very wrong, there must be a 12-point difference." The fallen angel keenly noticed the imperceptible curve at the corner of Renxue's mouth, and immediately reacted. Renxue, this black-bellied woman, doesn't want to be her sister. It's obvious that she doesn't want to be called her mother, she just wants to be her mother on the family tree. Okay, I treat you like a sister, but you actually want to be my mother. I really can't see that you, Renxue, have so many thick eyebrows and big eyes. Suppressing the dissatisfaction in his heart, forced to protest and be rejected by one vote, the fallen angel watched as his new name was recorded on the genealogy by Renxue. "Come, Lingyun, come to my sister." "Ha ha ha." Renxue pretended to be flamboyant and opened her arms, gesturing for her younger sister, who looked more and more like Bibi Dong, to come and let her know. "Crawl for me. Your grandma really treats me like a child." The expression on Linghuan's face, who was happy to propose a new name, seemed to be like this, convex, convex. "I'm already much older than you, and besides. Has the little girl grown up in movies? How could she make such an indecent gesture to her sister?" Renxue, who had received a portion of the blue star memory from the plain will, naturally knew the meaning represented by this gesture. Her expression remained calm, unable to show any joy or anger, but she gradually approached Lingxian. After Lingwen realized it, she realized that it was too late and she had no way to escape. Let go of me, you beast." Lingxuan struggled hard after being held by fate, but in terms of combat skills, most of the time she could only rely on her mouth. She couldn't compare to the experienced Renxue. Finally, in her futile struggle, Renxue fiercely slapped her waist and buttocks. Looking at Lingxian, who seemed to have been carved from the same mold as Bibi Dong, Renxue slapped her with this slap. Apart from the soft touch coming from her palm, the feeling of shame and dark comfort made her unable to extricate herself. In that moment, Renxue seemed to feel a slight sublimation in her soul. She was beating Lingxian as if she had returned the shadow that Bibi Dong had brought to her. Lingxian never expected that Renxue would even beat her and reveal his feelings and touch. The little girl's tear glands are very rich. Even though she didn't want to cry at first, after executing the family law, her eyes were still filled with tears. She rubbed the slightly painful area while throwing the golden soul coin in her hand. "Hey, the dry food inside here can't last for a few days. Should we go out and buy something to eat or bring it back?" "Sure, can we wear this to go out?" Renxue pondered for a moment and immediately agreed to Lingxuan's suggestion. But before leaving, she stubbornly demanded that Lingxian wear the somewhat eerie black robe before leaving. "This thing smells really bad, can you not wear it?" Qianling sniffed the robe in his hand and shook it in disgust, as if trying to make the black robe in his hand dissipate the smell. "Silly girl, don't be fooled by the unpleasant smell of this robe, it's actually a kind of insect-repellent powder. If nothing unexpected happens, they must have come from a place with many insects." Renxue, the old Taoist, recognized the smell on the robe and gave Lingxian a sudden shudder, fearing to say, "If you don't wear this robe, you might be taken away by a group of insects as soon as you go out." "Cut, I don't believe it." Qian glanced at Renxue and was about to laugh at her storytelling and scare people, but she also thought that this is TM's Douluo continent, not a blue star. It's impossible to avoid the situation where giant mosquitoes and soul beasts really take people away. Thinking of this, she forcefully swallowed back the words in her throat and honestly draped the stinky black robe over her body. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Imprudent Ghost and Naive Ghost. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Imprudent and naive ghosts. Following the dark tunnel where the evil soul master came, Renxue walked outside and felt the darkness for a while. Subconsciously, she stuffed her clothes into Qianlingxuan's hand and instructed, "Follow me by my clothes. With my understanding of that foolish fox, she will definitely." Before they could finish speaking, the two of them heard a rumbling sound above their heads. Qianling swallowed her saliva and exclaimed in fear, "She must know something. Don't just say half of it." But Renxue did not answer her words. Instead, she swallowed a mouthful of saliva and a princess held Qianling tightly in her arms, running wildly along the road just now. To prevent tomb raids, Hulina's inconspicuous and foolish fox specially modified the traps here. They won't start when they come in, so it can be said to be smooth sailing, but when they go out. "It's difficult," said Renxue, looking back as if worried that something strange might catch up. "It sounds like you know a lot about what strange things she's putting on." Speaking, Qianlingxian quickly turned his head to help Renxue observe the situation behind him. As expected, in the long corridor, a series of gray and black stone balls followed the trajectory of the passage, chasing them straight. "Can this thing shatter them?" Qianlingxian turned his head and asked. "With our current cultivation level, it's better not to think about it." Renxue gasped for breath as she ran away carrying a girl of her own size at the height of a 6-year-old girl. It was truly agonizing. Seeing the giant stone rolling faster and faster, Qianlingxian made a decisive decision and directly activated the martial soul possession. She stirred up her black wings and urged, "How could I have such a stupid sister like you? We can fly. Hurry down." Hulina also thought of this, "There are traps on top." Renxue jumped up and pulled down Qianlingxian in mid-air. With a thud, Qianlingxian fell heavily to the ground. Without much thought, she propped herself up with both hands and followed Renxue as she ran forward. Renxue also gave her a furious shudder and angrily scolded, "Do you know how dangerous it was just now? Why don't I know that flying is faster than walking? Hulina's fox is very bad, pulling a few strands of steel claw magic spiders every distance. That silk is as strong as gold and stone, one can easily cut a person open in the middle without paying attention. If it weren't for me, your life would be gone." Renxue became more and more angry as she spoke, thinking to herself, "So there's a child who doesn't understand. Being a mother is like this. Got it. I won't do it next time." Qianling, realizing the seriousness of the problem, lowered her head and casually admitted to Renxue. Renxue just snorted coldly on the surface, but her anger had already dissipated quite a bit. Finally, at the final distance of the corridor, she grabbed Qianlingxuan's wrist and jumped up towards the direction of the tomb chamber. Boom! After the two of them crawled to the ground, a loud noise came from behind them. It was the sound of the circular boulder hitting the wall. Just as Qianling thought it was over, later boulders came one after another, hitting the previous boulder heavily, shattering the ground into pieces. After about 3 or 4 minutes, the sound of the boulders colliding with each other finally came to a stop, but the passage was also blocked by these gravel. Qianlingxian instinctively looked at Renxue and whispered, "Sister Shui, the exit is blocked now. What should we do? In my opinion, we can write a suicide note first and then wait until we die." Renxue started talking nonsense seriously, and for some reason, she liked to see Qianlingxuan's bewildered expression because it allowed her to see her mother's former appearance. Ah. Qian Lingxian whispered, "Are you serious?" Obviously, Qian Lingxian also did not believe that Qian Renxue would wait here to die. Humph, so calm, it's really boring. I originally wanted to see you cry so loudly. Watch it, I still have a way. Qian Renxue, with an unhappy pout, walked to Huliana's coffin and reached into the pitch-black one. Qian Lingxian held his breath, afraid that his breathing might be slightly louder and disturb Qian Renxue. Gradually, Qian Renshue's expression became more solemn, and Qian Lingxian also nervously looked at Qian Renxue, afraid that something might go wrong at this moment. Suddenly, Qian Renshue's expression turned cold and her eyes showed fear. Her hand, which had been pressing against the side of the coffin, grabbed her arm that had penetrated into the coffin and let out a piercing scream. This scared Qian Lingxian to death. She rushed up and asked with concern, "Sister Shui, what's wrong? Is there anything inside here?" But Qian Renxue didn't say a word. She frowned slightly and gritted her teeth, and sweat as big as beans dripped onto the ground. Just as Qian Linghuan didn't know what to do, the tension on Qian Renshue's face dissipated. She reached out from the coffin and painted a layer of floating soil on Qian Linghuan's face. Looking at Qian Lingxian, who was like a little flower cat, Qian Renxue burst out laughing and said, "Ha ha ha, how are you doing? My acting skills are great, aren't you scared by your sister?" Speaking, Qian Renxue sat on the ground without any angelic or divine image, laughing heartily. The appearance of wanting to be beaten up made Qian Lingxian feel a bit like cursing, and as soon as the national essence in his mouth reached his mouth, he forcefully swallowed it back. There's no way, based on their current relationship, whether she scolds Qian Renxue or not is equivalent to directly scolding herself. She's not foolish enough to this extent. But not being able to curse does not mean not being able to sulk. Qianlingwu plans to resist Qian Renxue's evil taste in her own way. She honestly found a corner, squatted over, picked up a small stick, and drew circles on the ground. Suddenly, there seemed to be some blurry memory fragments in Qian Lingxuan's mind. In the clip, there was a scene of Qian Renxue flying a kite in front of the Pope's palace when she was a child. What is this? Qian Lingxian whispered to himself, covering his forehead. When did I have some memories of Bibi Dong? There's Jiaoling Pass, Qianren Snow, the capital of slaughter. How could there be a secret chamber? Qian Lingxuan's mouth twitched and he was stunned in place. After a hearty laugh, Qian Renxue supported the coffin and ran up from the ground. Looking at Qian Linghuan's state, she also roughly guessed 7 or 8. Qian Renshue's eyes rolled around and a bad idea came to her mind. She pretended not to notice that Qian Lingxian was angry and walked straight to her own coffin. She lifted the lid and crawled in, revealing only one head and shouting loudly at Qian Lingxian. "Hey, silly girl, what are you doing over there? Come on, sister found the exit." Qian Lingxian remained silent and continued to draw circles on the ground. Seeing this, Qian Renxue sneered in her heart and shouted at Qian Lingxian with a sweet smile, "You're not going out. All right, then you stay. Sister, go out first." After speaking, Qian Renxue withdrew her head and lifted the lid of the coffin, but there was no more sound. As soon as Qian Renxue left, Qian Lingxian immediately stopped her movements and looked around. In such a quiet space, only her heartbeat was thumping. She hesitated as she stood up and slowly walked to the coffin of Qian Renxue, saying to herself, "Is it possible that this secret passage that can go out is inside her coffin? Do you want to open it? If I go out by myself now, she won't squat at the exit laughing at me in the future." Qian Lingxian bit her lips and pondered for a while, finally lifting her hand to open a crack in the coffin. Qian Lingxian, who was pushing the lid of the coffin tightly, was fantasizing about a tunnel leading to the outside world inside the coffin. In the blink of an eye, he saw a face with a blue face and fang teeth suddenly jump out of the coffin. As is well known, Shuer lacked love from a young age. Now that she has become an elder, if she gets caught in the rain, she will tear off someone else's umbrella, jia jia. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. 1,000 spirits enter the Grand View Garden. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. 1,000 spirits enter the Grand View Garden. The monster's face was very close to Qianling's, and she could almost feel the warm breath coming out of the monster's mouth. The terrifying face made her legs weak and she fell to the ground with a thump. Ah 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 ah. The panicked Qianling, who instinctively grabbed everything he could throw at him and smashed it, including corpses, limbs, and the Rakshasa demon scythe. The monster deftly dodged these flying objects and then caught the Rakshasa demon sickle. She wiped off the paint on her face and complained to Qianling, "I'm good, you girl are plotting to harm me. Renxue, are you special?" Me, omitting 1,000 words here, Qianling couldn't hold back anymore and directly transformed into a telegraph machine to output a burst of messages to Renxue. The viciousness of its wording, the brutality of its content, and the variability of its style make Renxue truly feel the vastness and profoundness of Blue Star culture. Renxue, who knew she was in a sorry situation, waited patiently for Qianling to finish scolding before walking up and explaining, "I didn't do it right, but you know, since I was a traitor since I was young, I basically didn't have a childhood. Today, I have completed what I had always wanted to do. I am very happy, thank you." Qianling, who had already cursed comfortably, was too lazy to get angry anymore. He just rolled his eyes and complained, "Cut it, childish ghost." "Ha ha ha, yes, I'm a childish ghost, then you're a reckless ghost." Renxue didn't get angry either, raised her hand and rubbed Qianling's head, then laughed for herself. "There's no way, she's just such a family member now. How can she take advantage of her youth and not play around? So, do you really know where there's an exit?" Qianling hugged her chest and looked sideways. "Don't tell me, you just wanted to have some fun before you die. Put away your skeptical gaze, I am an angel god. How could I not know where the exit is?" Renxue proudly raised her head, raised the angel holy sword, spread its wings, and flew into mid-air. She stabbed the angel holy sword into a gap in the ceiling, then slightly twisted the hilt. Buzzing before long, the ground began to tremble. To be on the safe side, Qianling also spread his pitch-black wings and flew into mid-air, overlooking the square ground from above. The crack between the tiles sprayed dust outward, but it was only a cup of tea. A winding path for only one person appeared on the ground. After landing, the two of them exchanged a glance and walked outward along this tunnel, one in front of the other. The exit of the tunnel is behind a half-person high mountain waterfall, and the roar of soul beasts can be heard from outside the waterfall. No wonder no one has been bothering this place for nearly 10,000 years. It seems that Helena chose to bury her bones in the depths of a soul beast forest. Thinking of this, Qianling appreciated Helena's meticulous thinking a little more. Fortunately, this waterfall is not far from the edge of the soul beast forest, and the two of them only managed to leave after walking for a short while. On the vast plain, a solitary city stands in the distance. Renxue touched his chin and whispered, "We'll stay in the city tonight. How about we come back tomorrow after buying the supplies?" Qianling, who had never seen the customs and traditions of Douluo continent firsthand, naturally nodded repeatedly, almost uttering his sister's insightful and bearded words. Noticing that there was no storage soul guide in Qianling's hand, Renxue raised her forehead and sighed at her carelessness. She took out a bracelet-style storage soul guide from her pocket, pulled over Qianling's white wrist, and put it on for her. Qianling, a mother and fetus solo, never received such treatment before. At the moment when she put on the bracelet, she pretended to be watching the scenery and coughed lightly to soothe her inner turmoil. The distance of over 30 miles is neither far nor close, and the two of them stopped 5 miles outside the city by the convenience of flying. They leisurely paid their fees through the gate and entered the city. Passing through the alleyway and entering the main street, the street was bustling with people, and various types of passers-by walked through the streets and alleys. At first glance, the shops on both sides of the street are lined with a dazzling array of goods, with signs of all sizes arranged in rows. Various sounds such as shouting, chatting, and laughter came into my ears. As soon as Qian Lingxian entered the city, he stared intently at the belongings of the street vendors and looked at Qian Renxue with a pleading gaze. Looking at the adorable gaze that seemed to come with built-in sound effects and special effects, Qian Renxue twitched her lips and looked around, pointing to a inn called Fulai and saying, "You go eat it yourself. When you're full, go in and wait for me. I'll go take a stroll first." "All right, thank you, Sister Shui. See you tonight." Qianling whispered and disappeared from the crowd. Qian Renxue let out a long sigh like a worried parent and continued walking forward. Quickly, a bookstore on the street caught Qian Renshue's attention and said, "Bookstore, it's interesting. Let me see what soul masters in 10,000 years are looking at." With this in mind, Qian Renxue walked straight forward and pushed open the wooden door of the bookstore, which was slightly open. Entering the interior, the furnishings inside the bookstore are also rare. Although the storefront is not large, it is quite spacious. This bookstore can both read and buy books, and the books have already been neatly arranged on wooden bookshelves. In the end, on the row of bookshelves related to the history of Douluo continent, Qian Renxue noticed a surprisingly thick black book. On the spine of the book, the 3 large characters of the dark golden martial soul hall attracted Qian Renxue to pull it off the bookshelf. Opening the title page of the book, Qian Renshue's eyebrows involuntarily furrowed. There was no other reason, just one sentence in the preface. "Let's uncover the true veil of evil in the martial soul hall." It's enough to make the fire in Qian Renshue's stomach boil. Continuing to scroll down, Qian Renxue began to read word by word and line by line in a low voice. As is well known, the Martial Soul Hall is a corrupt organization that seals off the free will of soul masters. Interestingly, can there be so many soul keepers without our Wulin Hall going deep into each mountain village to awaken the Wulin? Qian Renxue said coldly, "It's also well known. But it's also true. Our Wulin Hall soul keepers have been poisoned, and naturally no one came out to clarify. During the period of the Martial Soul Empire, dictators led by Bibi Dong launched a devastating soul hunting operation, causing huge casualties to the 7 Treasures Glass Sect and the Blue Electric Overlord Sect." Seeing this, Qian Renshue's mouth twitched and she was almost enraged. She sneered with a playful smile, "It's hard not to say that I still want to offer delicious food and drink to the enemy. In my opinion, when hunting souls, we shouldn't send elders. It's up to the offering grandfather to exterminate these damn guys." During that dark period, Qianda Sect endured humiliation and made outstanding contributions to the destruction of the Martial Soul Hall. Can cowards who have been sealed off like turtles for decades and only dare to come up and bite us at that time be described as enduring humiliation and bearing heavy burdens? In my opinion, it's Grandpa who is too kind-hearted and doesn't understand the principle of eliminate evil and do everything. Qianda Sect. Sooner or later, I will make a list with you. With such words, even Qian Renxue's good temper was somewhat restrained in Bengbu. She suppressed her inner anger and flipped back to the page about Bibi Dong, which only recorded words such as cruelty, suspicion, and unparalleled evil. Seeing this, Qian Renxue has completely lost his patience in roast. After all, a god who can give the enemy 3 days to think about surrender in a decisive battle is really too kind, brain-pumping. It doesn't seem like there's much to the point. Qian Renxue closed the book tightly and put it back in its original place. Although she only skimmed through it, the content clearly contained elements of exaggeration and stigmatization. However, it's no wonder that the king was defeated by the enemy. If the Tang clan and those 2 empires had lost in the beginning, I'm afraid the black material in the book would have been Shrek and the others. Thinking of this, Renxue felt a little more relieved in her heart. Looking at the slowly setting sun outside the door, the shadows of passers-by grew longer and longer under the afterglow of the sun. It was only then that Renxue realized that she seemed to have another appointment. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Copper Smelters Shouldn't Go. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Dagega of Copper Smelting. Stepping out of the bookstore, Renxue breathed a deep sigh of relief into the blue sky. She slowly walked along the relatively flat slate road towards the Fulai Inn located on the bustling street. From a distance, she could hear Lingxuan's full of anger shouting, worried that this foolish girl would suffer from lack of practical combat experience. Renxue used her petite figure to move around in the crowd, and finally arrived at the lobby of the inn just before Lingxian was ready to take action. She confidently opened her eyes and strode to the center of the lobby to clear her throat. Ladies and gentlemen, I have become accustomed to being unruly and capricious. If there is anything I have offended, I would like to apologize here first. Renxue first politely arched her hand, then looked around the crowd present and said coldly. But similarly, if you think my sister is young and ignorant, and then you bully her recklessly, then this matter naturally won't be so easy to solve. Oh, there's another little beauty. At this moment, a chubby man of almost equal length and width walked out of the crowd, with a face full of flesh and fat. He was staring at Renxue and Lingxian with his malicious little eyes, which were not smooth. He rubbed his hands and scanned the two of them up and down with his gaze. He said with a sharp smile, "The little girl doesn't seem like a local. It's dangerous without adults around. Why not go to Uncle's house? Uncle's house is big, his bed is also big, and there are many delicious and fun things to eat. It will definitely make you feel very comfortable, he. Oh my goodness, it's okay to bully men and women on weekdays, but now I can't even spare such a young girl. It's just a beast. It's just that, I don't know how many girls have been harmed by him anymore. I really don't know how there are such scoundrels in the world." There was a commotion in the crowd, and faintly came several men who couldn't bear to speak up. Upon hearing this, the sleazy old man twisted his fat all over his body, crossed his waist, and sneered softly. "Oh, I want to see who dares to gossip about this young master without risking his life. Is that you?" The sleazy man grabbed onto the collar of an innocent crowd and roared fiercely, spraying saliva from his enlarged tongue and yellow teeth onto their faces. The innocent crowd had never seen such a posture before. While wiping the foul-smelling saliva on their faces with their sleeves, they shook their heads repeatedly and said, I misunderstood. Young Master Li, it's not me, it's really not me." Seeing the first group of people being so sensible, the sleazy man randomly loosened his collar and walked past several men he didn't like, humiliating them all with arrogance. A few strong men couldn't swallow this breath and clenched their fists to give this bully some color to look at. However, they were immediately pinned to the ground by the two Soul Masters guards next to the sleazy man and beaten viciously, until they let out more and let out less. "I have inquired, and his name is Li Pai. He is the second young master of the Li family in the city lord's mansion, with a cultivation level of a great soul master. The two guards around him are just great soul masters, and his father, the city lord, is a soul master." Lingxian leaned his head in Renxue's ear and whispered, urging him. "I think we can beat him up. Did he do anything to you?" Renxue raised her vermilion lips lightly and frowned, asking. "Che, just like his kidney deficiency, he's still tampering with me. He's such a useless person who can't even touch the corners of my clothes." Lingxian instinctively called out a bold self-proclaimed, then quickly changed back, causing Renxue to emit a refreshing smile like a silver bell. Realizing that there were still two little beauties here, the sleazy man bent down and walked forward with a wicked smile, saying, "Little girl, think about it. Do you want to go with Uncle? Qian Lingxian glanced sideways at Qian Renxue, showing a naive and innocent smile, and coquettishly said, okay, how about letting them lead the way ahead? Speaking, Qian Lingxian pointed to the two lackeys of the lewd man and smiled as he spoke. Second young master, this. The two guards keenly felt a slight discrepancy, but looking at the two cute little lollies in front of them, they had already thought that some inappropriate scenes could not be controlled by Li Peng so much. He shouted like a fly. Go ahead, don't talk so much nonsense. I'm the young master, you're the young master. Hurry up and lead the way. Yes. The two guards sighed, exchanged a glance, and walked out of the Fulai in first. When Li Bo was about to urge these two little girls to leave with him, he saw only a small fist gradually expanding in his unsmiling eyes. Old color blank, Loli Kong, take a punch from me. Qian Lingxian raised his hand and threw a punch directly at Loli Kong's face. Meanwhile, Qian Renxue, who had been waiting for a long time, rushed forward and kicked the chubby face of this vulgar blank. For a moment, the surrounding melon-eating crowd cheered and spontaneously gathered together, blocking the two belated guards for Qian Renxue and her companions. All right, stop fighting. Qian Renxue glanced at the inn gate and noticed that the two guards were peeling open the surging crowd. It won't be long before they rushed in. He shouted to Qian Lingxian, who was still kicking and kicking there, stop when it's good, withdraw. Oh, I got it. Qian Lingxian stopped his hand, wiped the sweat off his forehead, and lifted his leg to stomp heavily at the evil part. The mournful howls echoed through the entire inn in an instant, and the people around them took a deep breath when they saw the bloody scene. They exclaimed that the girl Qian Lingxuan was doing a good job in eliminating harm for the people. With the help of the masses of onlookers, Qian Renxue and his two companions easily slipped through the back door of the inn through the dense crowd, thanks to their small size and the help of righteous individuals. When those two unjust guardians came to their young master's side, they were completely dumbfounded. Their young master now had no more strength to howl. Looking around, the culprit had disappeared, and they had no choice but to give up. They each carried their young master, who weighed 300 pounds, to the doctor. On the street, Qian Renxue was grabbed by Qian Lingxuan's wrist and ran away. The passers-by who finished work around looked at the two little girls carved in powder and jade, and also showed a smile of emotion. I don't know who has this kind of luck, giving birth to such a beautiful daughter. The sugar mason, who was preparing to finish work and go home for dinner, looked at the two girls in front of his stall, lost in thought, as if remembering his wife and children. Boss, I'll take care of all these sugar figurines in the end. How much is it? Seeing the dessert, Qian Lingxian, who was a bit restless, walked excitedly to the sugar figurine shop and asked with a smile, pointing to the remaining few sugar figurines. What money do you need? I've finished work anyway. If you like it, I'll send you two to eat. The honest craftsman revealed his white teeth, took out two big sugar figurines from his stall, and handed them to Qian Lingxian. Then, he picked up a pole and walked slowly towards his home. Qian Lingxian handed the sugar figurine in his hand to Qian Renxue and threw a golden soul coin between his fingers. Watching the golden soul coin draw a golden arc under the sunset and finally fall steadily into the sugar man's bamboo basket, Qianling finally took his sugar man from Qian Renxue's hand and began to nibble on it heartlessly. End of this chapter.